CoPear, which is Datto, and we have the brilliant Salley with us today. We are very happy to have him with us, and I believe that the presentation that he is going to give is not just going to be engaging. I think it's going to be enthralling, because I have seen the rehearsal, so I know what you're going to get. So I'm going to hand over to Adam now. Please continue to pay attention, because as with Way, as with everything that's being said tonight, there is a lot in the detail, and I believe that forewarned is forearmed, and the information that we are being given tonight really is information that can make or break a company, especially when it comes to security, especially when it comes to preparing for the future or for the unknown. So without saying more, I'm going to hand over to Adam.
Thank you very much, Hamadin, and thank you for the brilliant, glowing welcome there. And thank you to Omar, Elvira and Way as well for really leading the narrative quite nicely into sort of the threats today, certainly the threats posed by the current situation we're in, the risks associated with people making mistakes and people not knowing what they're conformed to or constrained by. And now I'm going to hopefully show you how you can mitigate against some of these risks and mitigate against some of the associated costs associated with these risks. So as Hamadin said, my name's Adam Salley. I'm the European Sales Manager for Datto's Business Continuity Solution. And you're probably all wondering what the hell I'm talking about when I'm talking about business continuity. What is this business continuity that he mentions? And ultimately what I'm talking about is beyond backing up your business. It's about keeping the lights on and mitigating against the costs of not having a solution in place while we're being bombarded with all these threats, not just from COVID-19 and the associated cyber criminal activity, but day-to-day threats that we may or may not be familiar with. So first and foremost, who's Datto? So Datto is one of the largest business continuity solution providers. We're a technology company that stands behind organizations like CoPear and the fantastic role that they play in providing IT services to you as end user organizations that are not expected to be specialists in IT. And we are a provider of technology that sits underneath the incredible services that they provide. So as an organization, we work with about 16,000 IT service providers around the world. There's 1,600 of us. We support over 500,000 organizations. And what that constitutes to, in terms of data protected, is about 700 petabytes of customer data. So that's 700,000 terabytes of customer data sat in our purpose-built data centers across 7 countries. So I'm going to start off by talking about business continuity and what people conventionally believe business continuity is for. And quite rightly, people believe it's for situations like this and like this. It's disasters. And Datto as an organization, being an American started business, actually gets great PR from going out and supporting organizations in these horrendous situations and working with our partners to get their businesses back online. But where I'm sat in the UK, the biggest sort of natural disaster we face every single year is this. It's about 2, maybe 3 centimeters of snow, brings the entire country to a complete standstill. Nobody knows what to do. Everybody's panicking, but it doesn't quite constitute a full-blown natural disaster. So when we talk about business continuity and the requirements for business continuity, unfortunately, it comes down to people. And people are always going to be your biggest threat. They're your biggest asset in every single organization, but they're also your biggest risk. So people like this particular fine-looking gentleman happens to be responsible for the nuclear alerting system for the island of Hawaii. He accidentally sent out an alert stipulating that a ballistic missile was imminent, and his face was plastered all over social media. Shortly after, people started noticing that he put the password for the nuclear alerting system for the entire island of Hawaii on a post-it note at the bottom of his screen. And a little closer to home, William and his good friends at the RAF base in Wales for the search and rescue team again have plastered the login credentials for their internal systems on a piece of paper on the wall. And it's these vulnerabilities that organisations need to prevent to stop their staff from putting their organisation at risk. And it's no longer Bill in his mother's basement at age 50 that hasn't seen the sun for 3 years that are sending out these malicious cyber attacks. It's becoming state sponsored. And a number of the big well-known cyber attacks have got links to nations rather than individual criminal groups. So when we look at when we look at statistically, what causes downtime? And when I talk about downtime, I talk about the period of time between disaster and between recovery. So between loss of access to your critical business systems, your IT systems, and re-accessing those systems. And that might be loss of access to sort of temporary recovery or full-blown recovery. And when we talk about the main causes of instances of loss of access to these systems, ransomware is number one. Human error is actually number two. And number three is hardware and system failure. Now, that third piece of the pie is decreasing as that cyber criminal piece increases. And we'll go into a little bit more detail as we go through specifically. But the number one cause of downtime across the entire world is ransomware. And ransomware is a systemic problem across every nation, across every organization, and unfortunately it doesn't discriminate. So what is ransomware? Well, ransomware fundamentally is an application. It's a piece of software that is sent out via email or any other means that once activated runs and encrypts an entire system or an entire network. Now, the WannaCry virus that hit the NHS in the UK in 2017 was one of the first mass-produced what we call worm viruses, where it infected one computer and jumped across the network to the next, to the next, to the next, bringing down an entire institution in one hit. Now, any of you that aren't particularly happy in your careers right now, it's a really easy way to start up a nice ransomware business. You can download the Tor browser, the Onion browser, you can go into the dark web, and you can buy a ransomware kit, and it comes with a piece of software to send out to all of your unsuspecting victims. It comes with a nice list of those unsuspecting victims, and it comes with a nice cryptocurrency wallet for you to collect all of your payments. I wouldn't advise it, but true to form, the youngest individual in the UK to be prosecuted for the distribution of ransomware and accruement of ransoms was 12.
Wow.
That's how easy it is. Absolutely. So it's a problem. It's a serious problem. And unfortunately, while a lot of the partners that Datto work with around the world see this as a massive problem, a lot of the sort of organizations that they're servicing don't. And that's because it hasn't happened to them yet. Now, I ride a fairly big, powerful motorbike. And every time I get on that motorbike, I'm in leathers, helmet, boots, gloves, because it's not a case of if I come off, it's a case of when I come off. And it's about mitigating the pain associated with me sliding down the tarmac. Now, unfortunately, it's become the same for this. So I've already got a great backup solution. My data's in the cloud. Fantastic. Everybody should have backup, because backup does one thing. It keeps data safe. It ensures you can get data back. It does not mitigate against the costs of loss of access of systems to recovery and the period of time that you've still got to pay your employees, you've still got to pay your commitments in terms of rent, overheads, but you can't charge your customers for services you're not providing them. So if we look at just a few of the latest news articles, an organisation in Kent in the UK hit by ransomware, PPE firm, 4 weeks to get access to their critical systems back. An IT forensics firm in Yorkshire hit by ransomware and paid the ransom to get their data back. They paid the ransom. They paid cyber criminals. Now, their biggest contract happened to be with the Metropolitan Police. That contract was pulled overnight. Travelex forced into administration due to a ransomware attack. Canon, one of the largest managed print organizations on the planet, crippled by ransomware. Garmin, all of you fitness fanatics out there will have seen the frustrations of not being able to upload your runs or cycles to Strava, but it's actually the aviation industry and the marine industry that pay Garmin monthly subscriptions to provide them up-to-date maps and SOS systems that are really going to suffer in an instance that, like they weren't they weren't able to provide their services for weeks and weeks. So, okay, my business gets hit by ransomware. What's it going to cost me? Well, I'm not going to go through the figures this evening, but Datto's worked with organizations like CoPear to provide calculators to enable you to work out what those costs could be for your business specifically. All we need is, how much data you've got, how long you could do without accessing that data, how many times you back that data up a day, how many employees you've got, how much you pay them, this, that, and the other, and we can give you a cost during a period of downtime. What I think it's also worth maybe talking to the team at CoPear about is what I describe the macroeconomic factors to be. So I've still got to pay my employees, I've still got to pay my rate and rents, I can't charge my customers. I describe that as microeconomic factors. But Wei actually touched on a very, very topical point earlier in terms of the liability organizations face if they don't adhere to certain regulations. And that's what I describe as macroeconomic factors, GDPR, legislative stipulations around specific verticals, commitments or legal requirements to provide services or products to customers, the ability to pay and take delivery from suppliers, all of which constitute legal battles that organizations don't want to have to get into. So there's another tool which I think is well worth having a look at, which is provided by a company called Hiscox, the #1 cyber insurance company on the planet. And they give you a calculator to work out what your cyber exposure liability is. So in an instance that you don't have a suitable line of defense in terms of antivirus, in terms of web filtering, and in terms of what I describe as an insurance policy, a business continuity solution in the back end, this will tell you how much it's going to cost your business in an instance that they are no longer compliant and they don't have the solutions in place. So Forbes, following the Garmin attack, the #1 piece of guidance for every organization: have a continuity plan and ensure that you test it. So what does this look like from Datto? CoPear works with Datto to provide business continuity, peace of mind, the ability to sleep at night knowing that your business is safe when you come in the next day. So Datto continuity works on a rule of 3. 3 copies of your data that you actually care about. I'm not talking about the CEO's cat pictures, I'm talking about business critical data stored in at least 2 locations, preferably 1 on site, 1 in the cloud, and at least 1 copy of data in some sort of geo-redundant cloud infrastructure. And understand the difference between backup and business continuity. Backup minimizes data loss. It keeps data safe and enables you to get it back. Business continuity minimizes downtime. It ensures that the lights stay on, you continue to delight your customers, and continue to pay your employees. So let's have a look at what that actually looks like. So let's go this way. This is my Windows server, and I'm going to quickly create a document. This is going to be business critical data. I'm going to say, hi, CoPear. Live and dangerous demonstrations, never do them.
We love them though.
Sorry?
We love them though. It's like never.
Absolutely.
Kids and children now, it could be technology as well. So this is great.
Yeah, children, animals, and technology.
That's
100%. Right. Amadin, I don't want your PIN number, but I'd like 4 random numbers, please, sir.
I'm going to give you. I nearly did something there.
Oh, nearly.
You 1964. No, actually, I'm going to give you 1983.
1983, fantastic. So I'm the same. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to save that. Now that is business critical data. Okay. Now I work at CoPear. I'm in their tech team with my hat on right now. This is my Datto appliance protecting that server. So I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to kick off a backup. That's now going to back up just what's changed between my 6:30 backup and right now. So probably pretty much just my CoPear document with Amadin's critical, not PIN number digits.
It is critical.
So while that's kicking off, what this solution is doing is it's taking a backup of just what has changed between the last backup and now. And every single day, me being a technician at CoPear, receive an email from this solution showing me that at 8:02 this morning, that backup booted. It turned itself on. It took a screenshot of the login screen to say, Adam, CoPear's server is backed up and protected. If something goes wrong, I can just turn that back on and get their business back up and running, which is fantastic. So I'll jump back into that Protect tab, and there we can see the latest backup, 7:55. Perfect. We're all done. Now, my colleague Yuri, who's actually on the call, I believe, who's actually the account manager for CoPear, has sent me an email. And he said, Adam, you're never going to guess what. And I said, what, Yuri? He goes, I've just received an Excel file containing everybody's pay and bonuses. I'm human. I'm intrigued. What's everybody being paid compared to me? So I jump into my documents and I open up the downloads for, oh, and there it is. True to his word, payroll and bonuses. Now, this is all my critical data, but I'm really intrigued as to what's in this file. So I open that up. Bizarrely, it's just disappeared. It's deleted itself, which is very peculiar. And then moments later, everything's turned white. The extensions have changed to .ecc. And then short while after that, lo and behold, I'm going to get a dirty red pop-up saying that all of my data has been encrypted and it's being held to ransom by a cyber criminal. It's been infected with ransomware and I've got to pay 1 Bitcoin to this address in 3 days. Otherwise, they're going to delete the decryption key and I'm never going to be able to access my data again. I could try and break this RSA 2048 encryption, but that would take the compute power of the Mac that sat in front of me beyond the heat death of the universe to decrypt. Wow. So lo and behold, I'm going to hope and pray that CoPear have got my back with a business continuity solution. So first and foremost, for any of you that are interested, if you ever get this situation, first thing you should do is disconnect this from the network, because if it is a worm ransomware, it may well jump from your PC to another. So just a little tip there. So I'm going to jump back into my Datto appliance, and I'm critically after that document that Amadin's given me with those critical numbers. So first and foremost, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to go my server, file restore, pick my recovery point and start that restoration. I can then literally mount that up to access that over a web share, and I can drill down into this to find that document. So I'll go users, administrator, desktop, and there's my high CoPear file. I can click on that and it downloads to my machine. It's obviously going to open on my other screen, of course, why would it not? But there you go. That's my document. I've got that back, that critical piece of data. So I'm on the train going to present to the board. I need one file. I've just locked up my entire network, but the guys at CoPear can pull that out for me almost instantly. But in this instance, I've just crippled the entire network. The entire server's gone and we need to get it back up and running. So I'm on the phone to the guys at CoPear and I say, the server's gone, we need it back. Okay, brilliant, give me 2 seconds, select my server. I'm going to run this on the box that's installed on my site at my office. I'm going to pick my recovery point and I'm going to start that restoration. I'm going to ensure that this has got adequate resources to run my server, and I'm going to start that virtual machine. That's then going to boot out a copy of my server exactly as it was at 7:55. Down to the latest document, my high CoPear document, that is going to be true to as it was at that time. I can then click on this and it'll give me a preview, and everybody loves watching Windows booting, which is why I use a Mac. And Datto is pretty cool, but there's nothing it can do about the time it takes Windows to load. So while we're waiting for that, what this is doing is this is building my server exactly as it was at that point in time. It gives me the opportunity to forget my password. Oh, I haven't done it. And there we are. That's my server back online. That's my high CoPear file, and that is not anybody's PIN number. So that ultimately is what business continuity is about. Now, in an instance where you're using backup, you're backing up your critical data, which is probably just your files and folders, to a NAS drive in the corner of the office, or you're sending it offsite to some sort of cloud infrastructure. It will take you on average a day to download a terabyte of data. So if you've got multiple terabytes of data within your organization, you're potentially going to be waiting days before you can start providing the services that your customers are expecting and ensuring that your staff are being productive. So what we're saying is ensure that you've got business continuity in place, ensure that you've got 3 copies of all data that you care about, and ensure that, God forbid there is a fire or flood, at least one of those copies of data is in an alternate location. So that is business continuity for your server infrastructure. But that's not where a lot of people's data is residing anymore. Now, if COVID has taught us one thing, it's that the migration to cloud has been accelerated somewhat. And the adoption of Office 365 and Google Suite has boomed in the past 9 months. So what about our data in the cloud? What about our data sat within Office 365 or G Suite? So that is unfortunately as vulnerable as the data sat on our local server. And the reason being is cyber criminals are incredibly intuitive. They're very sophisticated individuals. They build this software. And as such, they're not stupid. They know that 98% of the global economy is using some form of cloud-based application service. And they know that 56% of that 98% are using Office 365. So they're absolutely moving their line of sight directly to where the bait is. And as such, you need to protect the data set within Office 365. But Office 365 is in the cloud, and the cloud is some unicorn in the sky. I'm sorry, but it's not. The cloud is someone else's data center. It's someone else's computer. It's as susceptible to ransomware or malicious attacks. It's as susceptible to people clicking on things or deleting things or doing things they shouldn't be. And unfortunately, it's as susceptible to hardware failure as any other IT service or data center. So Datto SaaS protection, software as a service protection, for those of you not in the industry, provides backup for Office 365 and G Suite. So all of the core components, Office 365 and G Suite, Exchange, OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams. G Suite not so prevalent. We use it at Datto, we're an American company. Office 365 absolutely the more prevalent. And talking about sort of some of the reasons why. So 7% of lost data is caused by malicious deletions. So I catch wind that I am being let go from Datto. I'm being let go because I've been having some unscrupulous conversations with people via my email. First thing I'm going to do is go and wipe out my email. I'm not being bundled into the back of a van for doing something naughty, but I've been having legal conversations with suppliers, with customers, with any other sort of stakeholder of my organization. Now, the moment I wipe out my inbox, that organization loses compliance. They've lost critical data aligned to customers, with customer information, with personal information of people. So it's critical for businesses that this data is backed up. Once again, 13% of data, viruses and hackers, cyber criminals are relentless, and 47% of data lost by human error. So looking at some of the rationale behind it, unfortunately, it's not just these statistics that stipulate you should be backing up the data set within Office 365. Actually, Microsoft tell you should. In 2 parts of Microsoft's end user license agreement, which I'm happy to send out after this call, it stipulates you should back up your data. 1, closing your account. I've left Datto. Datto no longer wants to pay CoPear for Adam's Office 365 license, so they call CoPear and say, can we remove Adam's O365 license? At the point that CoPear delete Adam's O365 license, all of Adam's data is gone. They don't keep it, they delete it. Why would they keep it? And the second part of it is actually Microsoft admitting that the cloud is not some mythical unicorn in the sky, and all services are subject to potential and occasional outages, and as such, you should maintain access to your data in alternate third-party locations. So ensuring that you've got a backup solution for not only data sat in your office on your local cloud infrastructure, but also the applications hosted by organizations like Microsoft and Google has never been more critical. So just to sort of wrap up, ensure that your users are aware of all of these threats, or as much as they can be. No one's expected to be an expert. I'm not aware of the majority of the threats that are facing organizations today, but ensuring that users are checking that emails are actually from who they look like they're from, that the TV licensing or the DVLA emails that everybody gets are actually from TV licensing or DVLA and not from gobbledygook at gobbledygook at gobbledygook, and they're asking for your personal information. Oh, let's click forward, sorry. Ensure that you deploy multiple layers of security. Business continuity is not a replacement for antivirus. Antivirus is not a replacement for web filtering. Unfortunately, you need it all. Life insurance, contents insurance, house insurance, car insurance, you don't unfortunately get one. You have to protect yourself in multiple layers. Protect systems with business continuity, not just backup, and know the difference. Understand what you've got at the moment, and if it is not business continuity, I would probably have a conversation with some people that know something about it. Test backups and rehearse disaster recoveries. So many times I have conversations with organizations and they say, we've got backup. It's there, it's in the corner of the office. When was the last time? We've never tested it. What do you mean? Do you test the backup of your laptop when you back it up to an external hard drive? Well, no, in all honesty, I probably don't, but I should, because when my laptop goes down the stairs and I can't get my data back, I'm going to be pretty upset. Store 3 copies of any data that you care about. As I said, the CEO's cat pictures can sit wherever you want them, but anything that's critical to running your business, please ensure that you've got multiple layers of potential restore of that data. And finally, know your costs, especially during a disaster. The guys at CoPear have got access to all of these calculators. They're incredibly experienced with having these conversations, and they'll be able to run you through specific to your business what you might be facing in an instance that you fall victim to one of these attacks. And don't think bad of yourself if you do fall victim, because unfortunately these attacks are becoming so sophisticated that, as you see, even the biggest enterprise grade organizations are falling victim to them. And then bring in the experts. Please lean on the expertise of organizations like CoPear. Every organization should be working with organizations that are experts. You don't do your own accountancy, you don't do your own legal, why would you do your own IT? And thank you. Thank you for your time this evening, and thank you very much to the team at CoPear for inviting me to talk.